going, everybody? Welcome back to East West Reviews. Today we're getting into Bad Batch episode 7. And oh my god, this episode was incredible. I wasn't expecting to get something that was so good, that has, a lot of emotion to it. It was definitely a treat to see, this whole episode. There's a lot to take away from it, so I'm going to do my best to try to focus on a couple of highlights from here. But without further ado, let's get into it. So we get the crew starting off in a different light. They're not sitting around at the bar or trying to find somewhere to land and make a plan. But we see them actually in the middle of like a space fight. It looks like they're running away from people, part of a contract. They have some sort of pet, someone's pet, I guess. Seemed like a kind of a high value target. Apparently, it's probably some rich person's pet. And the payoff seemed pretty big as well when they got back to Sid's office, but of course Sid ripped them off this time around. But I couldn't be mad at her reasoning for this, because I guess she was kind of charging them for basic housing and living costs, which we see now that they still aren't adjusting to civilian life. They're still really you probably feel attached to that military lifestyle, having things readily available for them. The well supplied, well stocked military complex. Because we see when Omega and Wrecker they go off for their tradition, which I thought was actually really cute and funny. That they put the snacks on Sid's tab the whole time. So I couldn't be upset because they are costing her money. So there's really no other way to start off this episode in terms of main points other than to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, my boy Captain Rex. So good to see him back in the series. Of course, I'm sure a lot of people have been wondering where he's been, what he's been up to. We know that he's been traveling around, probably resisting the Empire, tagging along with Ahsoka. Surprisingly did not mention her and that she's around in this episode, but maybe that's for good security measures. You don't know who will want to learn about a Jedi possibly being around. But nonetheless, glad to see him back, glad to see that he's doing well. And I guess we figure out that he was the hologram figure in the last episode at the end who was talking to the Martell sisters. Not surprised to see him working with them. Of course, we know that they have ties to Ahsoka, and of course, Rex is Ahsoka's right-hand man right now. So I'm not surprised that they're all a gang working together. I hope to see a little bit more into their works of what they're getting into. I'm sure we'll see them later on, but I'm really curious myself right now. So one of the really interesting points that I noticed from Rex right away was how traumatized he still is by Order 66. Of course, anyone who watched the end of Season 7 with his own experiences going through Order 66, turning himself, almost killing Ahsoka, to having to get his chip taken out and having to fight his way out of his own ship and having to fight and leave behind a lot of men that he worked and fought along with for so long. So, of course, right away, when he finds out that the Bad Batch still had their chips in them, he got real defensive, and honestly, I think he was ready to take them down if need be. Of course, we know Rex isn't shy to this, but the Bad Batch is a very capable group, and he knows them better than a lot of other clone commanders who had worked with them in the past. So, of course, he wouldn't mess around with a group like this. So, upon learning that they still have their chips, he tries to talk them into getting them taken out. Of course, they also mention Wrecker having a headache and Crosshair leaving. So he basically persuades them to go and get their chips taken out, and he ends up leading them to the planet Braca. Just a sidestep here, Planet Braca, a lot of us may know from the Jedi Fallen Order games where Cal Kestis starts his story off. Of course, we don't see Cal in this, of course, or any hints of him, but we do know he may be around here because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe his master ship crash landed on this planet as well. Maybe the same Jedi cruiser or one of the ones among there. But Cal could be around. But just to get back to it, he basically leads them to one of these Jedi cruisers, because we know at the end of season 7, Ahsoka on the ship was able to get the inhibitor chip taken out to Rex due to the advanced facilities that are located on these ships. So Rex hopes in order to find the same sort of deal for these guys and help them out. So Rex is able to bring the crew to one of the facilities on the ship. Of course, after going through a bunch of wreckage and Wrecker himself almost getting eaten alive by a sea monster, he manages to bring them in. But of course, that's where we get this fated moment that we've been dreading and kind of noticing that would happen for a few episodes now. And that's, of course, the tragic turn of Wrecker in this episode. Crazy twist. I knew it was coming, but I didn't think it would come exactly this soon, especially when they were trying to get these chips taken out. It was only a matter of time. He was a ticking time bomb. But it was pretty funny to me how when they tried to take the chip out, that it somehow ended up activating the chip itself. And to further that, Omega kind of had a feeling this would happen. I'm not sure if this is sort of this, weird power she's might have. I think she definitely has some sort of ability, because she can definitely kind of see what like the clones are thinking. But it was kind of weird that she was able to notice that this might not work for Wrecker and that this might end up hurting him. But of course, she was right. And when Wrecker turned, everybody ran for the hills. Hunter and Rex tried to take him down, but of course they couldn't get to him. And Hunter and Rex are not slouches. These are two seasoned elite fighters. I was kind of amazed that the two of them couldn't take down Wrecker, but Wrecker, of course, with all of the intent to kill, he was just on a rampage, and we see that he almost takes out Omega up until Rex is able to stun him, maybe able to get back on his feet. But an interesting moment from here that I just have to highlight: Omega was ready to put down Wrecker. I think she was definitely ready to go ahead and pull the trigger on him, because she definitely wouldn't want to, but I think at this point, Omega might be capable of doing just that. But they had a moment at the end of this episode that I think that they both really needed, and of course that was when Wrecker goes ahead and apologizes to Omega, and she pulls out her snacks that they had taken, of course from the same area Sid's from, and she tells him, "Hey, the mission's over. We gotta have tradition." So I think that was a really good moment for them. Definitely something they both needed to move forward, I believe, because that was a terrible situation for both of them, and I'm glad they were able to talk about it. So everyone ends up being able to get their chips taken out with no worries, thank God. And I like that at the end, Rex is giving the crew an offer to join him. So this sort of gives me an indication of kind of what Rex is doing. Like I said before, I think he's going around resisting the Empire, possibly fighting back on a small scale. I wonder if it's something similar to Saw Gerrera, or maybe not to the same extent out there in the open, because of course he is a clone. And he probably doesn't want to draw too much attention to himself, and of course Ahsoka being a former Jedi. But Rex ends up leaving on his own. Of course, he has a talk with Hunter at the end, where Hunter sort of tells him that they have to go and figure out their own path, what's best for them, of course, with dealing with Omega. And Rex respects that. He tells them there's always a place if they need it, but I'm glad that they're going to keep in touch. And of course, we'll see him in the future, possibly the Martell sisters, and I really hope to see Ahsoka again as well. And of course, we end this with the scrappers of the planet. They see Hunter standing on top of the Jedi cruiser, and it ends with one of them saying, "Go ahead and report this to the Empire." So what an ending! Definitely going to be a lot more action packed going forward. I think this hopefully this is something that sets the tone for the show going forward, because man, that was phenomenal. So to get in some predictions here, we mentioned that the Empire is going to be called because Hunter was seen at the top of the Jedi cruiser. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start to shift over to the Empire with this. I think it'd be a really good transition to go and see what's going on with Tarkin and Crosshair and his crew on Kamino, because I'm very curious myself to see how the Empire is developing and forming at this point in time. I also think that with the next episode, along with seeing possibly Crosshair and Tarkin, I think the adversary for the next episode will definitely be the Empire. I think we're going to possibly see just how big these limits that Sid has when it comes to keeping a secret on the Bad Batch. I think she might have to question whether she wants to rat them out, especially if they're going to get some heat brought on them. She doesn't want to get involved, so I think this might finally come to a close in terms of Sid. I hope so. I definitely want to see where that storyline plays out. And my last prediction, of course, we're going to go ahead and see Rex again in the near future. But of course, that's not going to be until what the crew finds out what it is that they want to do for themselves. And I think that's going to come in the form of them trying to find out maybe what side they want to take in this battle for the galaxy that's kind of going on right now with the Empire. Hunter mentions, I'm not sure what to do, but I think that Rafa's words at the end of the last episode, everyone has to choose a side eventually, is definitely going to eat away at him and make him consider what he has to do in his own responsibilities. And of course, Rex had a little bit of an influence on him as well, trying to talk him into joining him and his crew. So Hunter's going to be thinking about this a lot. But I think he's going to be conflicted when it comes to protecting Omega. So I think he's going to struggle with this for a little bit. Ultimately, I think Hunter's going to choose to go ahead and fight with possibly Rex. Maybe he'll meet up with Saw Gerrera. But I think they're definitely going to go ahead and choose a side in this eventually. That's going to be all for me today, everybody. What a crazy episode. So many great moments. Again, we've had the return of Rex, setting up more for the future of the show. There's so many things going on right now. I can't wait to see what happens next week. But don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, or dislike, if you're really feeling like it. But either way, let me know what you think about in the comments down below about this episode and predictions going forward for the future of the show. I'll see you all next week for episode 8. Bye.